I found in a lot of our older buildings have like a dumbweight or like a counterweight system, and just stuff like this. You need to be intimately familiar with your building stock. So I know this is by no means a St. Louis thing. So if they're in my city, they're probably somewhere else. So just some cool stuff to kind of keep your eye out for. And you feel them too. You should kind of start. You know, a good attribute of anyone assigned to a truck company or a ladder truck or someone operating on roofs is starting to kind of like feel with your feet. You should have that kind of that intuition, that like sixth sense with your feet. That's how I found these the first time. I was on the EMS run and I was going upstairs, and it caught me off guard was the stairs kind of bounced, and I was like, whoa, what was that? That's weird. And then I looked down and I saw the latch. I'm like, that's a freaking door. You know, that's crazy. So also small clues might have, you know, big ramifications here. You're going through you're doing your forcible entry. How many people are actually looking at the doorbell and they do forcible entry? What does 2 doorbells mean, right? That's a multi-family unit. That's there's 2, probably an upstairs and a downstairs that you might not know about. It might be one address. The rear address might be in the back, might be an A or a B kind of thing. So just little stuff like that can tell you that, hey, there might be a whole second family, you know, a multi-family. You're thinking it's a single family. Also, door latches. If you're forced a door and that latch is locked, that also means something, right? So these little things like that, you can start training your eye for, and kind of add into the scenario. That's why I like training on actual buildings opposed to just like the training prop doors, because these are the little things that matter that you can almost never replicate. So if you see a door latch like that, someone is inside that apartment unless they climb out their window to go leave. So it's just how it works. The occupied vacant, right? Unfortunately, I work in a city that has a massive vacancy building problem, tens and thousands. So there's people in these buildings, and you have to understand the signs of habitation when you see them, all right? You can't just write off a vacant building just because it has an appearance. These are people's homes. So we were driving by one day, I noticed this window open, and that's a sure sign of someone's entered or is using that building to live there. And I went and peeked in the front window, and sure, here's what we have. We have a nice, the pocket door shut. It's insulated. There's an appliance shoved against the pocket door. I'm assuming it's a heater. And then you got the power cord. They steal power from adjacent buildings with extension cords and jumper cables. So right there, they're adding a fire hazard to the fire hazard already with a vacant building, and then they're living inside of it. So you just got to be very cognizant of this stuff and do your due diligence in your communities, that these buildings are people's homes. These vacant buildings have people in them. You don't know until you go. You just don't know until you do a search. You can't just see a vacant building and say, you know, it looks vacant, it's fine. You're gonna catch yourself in a bad headline one day. Your department's gonna get caught up. You know, you're gonna find a victim a week later. You know, it's not gonna be good. So just get in these vacant buildings. You need to see what people are living in. Some places they're just in all of them. So just be cognizant of that. So ladders on wood balconies, you see this a lot. Unfortunately, it's a problem that doesn't even need to occur. Now, if it's a metal balcony, you just got to deal with it. But on a wood balcony, there's some tricks for that. You can take out the balusters. Like the picture in the lower right-hand corner, you can make a nice little hole, very, very easy for yourself to get someone now off that balcony. Instead of having to lift them over, which is a very precarious situation, like you see the fellow up on the right, or the victim up in that's fine, but it's not the best way to do that. There can be some problems with that. You don't want to drop anyone, you don't want to break anyone's hip or anything like that. So there's just a quick little tip: take out the balusters real fast. Usually they knock right out with the tool, but that's kind of a cool trick to do on balconies. And also, it's a real pain to get off a balcony back onto a ground ladder. If you're not the tallest person in the world, it's very difficult to do. So I can tell you that the guy right there on the left probably couldn't get on that ladder by himself. You're going to have to get up on that balcony to help him get on that ladder. So if you just clear out those balusters, it's a straight shot. It's very, very easy. So if you have an aerial device, you can almost shoot that through them balusters too. So keep your tools accessible. Everyone does like the pocket dance. I've been in 2 or 3 fires now where we've needed cutters. People were hung up, legitimately hung up in wire, duct wire, whatnot. And no one could get their cutters because their cutters were buried by 2 extra pairs of gloves, their 2 extra hoods, their webbing, and whatever tool of the week is buried under their stuff. So, you know, after that, I was like, you know, I got to find a way to get my cutters out of my pockets, because that's not going to work. It's not working for me. So it's a cool little trick I found. I put my cutters behind in my flashlight slip there, my flashlight sleeve. I put my cutters behind my flashlight in my coat. Now, if your gear is not like this, then you're gonna have to find another way to do it. You can do your cutters with a webbing loop upside down in your pocket. That'll work if you don't have this gear set up. But the point is to get your life-saving tools accessible with one hand. You shouldn't have to be going into a pocket to get something that's going to save your life, because I guarantee you're not gonna be able to get in there fast enough. So plus, when they're in your pocket, they get rusty. These stay outside and they stay surprisingly clean. So I can operate them with one hand. I can get to them on both sides of my body with both hands. So it's just a really cool little trick that I have experimented with, and I love it. So forcible egress. A lot of people talk about forcible entry, but what about when you have to get out of the building? What do you do if the bar is on the outside and you're on the inside? So I had this happen to me once, and I just happened to sit there and go, I don't have anything that I can do for this. Like I was at loss. I had no playbook for this. So we got a hold of some vacant buildings to train on, and I said, all right, we're gonna find a way to pry off these bars from the inside. So at least next time I'm jammed up, I can get myself out, or at least attempt to get myself out without having to swing a tool. I can just pry. So this is what we did. We kind of came up with this method: a 6-foot roof hook, a metal, any sort of metal hook. You can do with a halogen too. You want to try to catch that gap, the soffit, and use that's your fulcrum, the top of the roof there, the top of the windowsill. So you can kind of see how it works. Now, it'll be better if you get closer to the center. But like I said, so we're learning, we're experimenting how we're doing it. So you see I move over the corner of this metal. This is in a brick wall, by the way. This is lag bolts into a brick wall. So like my partner said, the extender bars, you don't even got to mess with that side. So you really only got to force 2 leg bolts, all right? So once the extender bars, you force the opposite side of the extender bar, and you will not know what side those are on if it's a real bad situation, but it's just a bonus if those exist. So that's just little stuff like that. You got to get out in your buildings and do the stuff. There is nothing in any written fire service literature about forcible egress from bars on the outside. So this is it. I mean, if you guys have another way of doing this other than calling another truck company to cut the bar off for you, please show me, because I would love to get good at that. So salvage, that's that one thing that everyone forgets about, right? It's, it's insulin stabilization, life safety, and then property. But property is kind of gone by the wayside. Everyone has insurance nowadays, which is a ridiculous thing to say. But sometimes property does matter. In this case, we had a fire in a museum, and property mattered. We took some risks to get the stuff out of there. And I always say, property doesn't matter until it does. So here's some little tips about that kind of stuff. Salvage is a part of a truck company operation. Maybe your department is heavy into it with the tarps and all that kind of stuff, which is great. If you are, that's cool to know that kind of stuff. The property owners will be thankful for you, and they'll support you with that. So cool little trick here is if you have to clear a bunch of stuff out of upper floors of a building, you can go ahead and knock out the bottom parts of windows, obviously to make sure they're not stacked. You don't want to be throwing stuff on top of each other. But this is an easy way to clear water and debris out of floors. This old book, back from I think the 60s. And it's a cool little trick. I thought it was really neat. So if you have to overhaul a whole room or something like that, upper floors, you can go ahead and throw everything out, removing sofas or large debris, heavy content fires, that kind of stuff. It doesn't hurt the building, all right? That's not a structural support right there. So you can knock out that portion. If it's a wood frame building, you use something with a chainsaw, and then that allows you to overhaul and get rid of clutter very effectively out of the building. Instead of taking it down the interior stairs and stuff like that, you try not to do. So sprinkler alarms, a lot of us have to do these one way or another. A lot of water goes in places you don't want it. The sprinkler alarm on the the 20th floor is affecting floors 1 through 19. So what do you do with all that water, right? You got to either flow it down, squeegee it downstairs, which is terrible. You got to do a water chute out of a window. Maybe you have luck at that, or you can go ahead and just pull a toilet off, and then you got a drain right there. Whatever apartment is, pop the head. You just go ahead and it's already a bathroom, so it's used to being water. It's a tile floor usually, and it's a really cool little trick. So to do that, it keeps the water out of the elevator shafts. That's the only other option besides the stairs. So cool little trick like that. Take the toilet off. You have a drain in the floor right there in whatever apartment the sprinkler head is popped. So it's a cool little trick. It's very effective, and it's just a wax ring and 2 bolts. All right, you didn't really ruin anything. So utilities, also something that a truck company is responsible for. Our gas meters are on the inside. Maybe yours are on the outside. So it changes up some things. But either or, your gas and electric have to be controlled at every fire one way or another. If you call the company out to do that, that's fine. But you should definitely know how to be able to do the gas meter. That should be a fire department operation, whether it's at the street or it's inside. You got to have some sort of pipe wrench with you or some spanner of some sort to be able to find these and shut these off. Sometimes these are framed up. They kind of suck. You can't find them as easily as you think. Some places, they're behind cabinets or they put drywall around them and they're hard to get to. So understand where they're at. Cool little modification we do with ours is we have a little tiny 8-inch pipe wrench, but they'll throw like a 4-inch or 6-inch shooter bar on there, which gives us more leverage. Some of these gas meters are just rusty and old, and they're very hard to turn, especially in zero visibility. So we add a built-in shooter bar on there. We tie it on. We keep it on there with a stopper knot so it doesn't slip off. Keep it right in your pocket, and it comes right out. So that little loop is just sitting there, and I can pull that out any given time. And I got my shooter bar on there for more leverage. It's pretty cool, cool little trick. So it comes right out just like this. It's pretty, it's easy to find. It's how it's in my gear. It just comes right out. So super easy. Cool little trick you can do. Like I said, another way to get the tools in the hands of the new person. Cool little project you can do with the crew. You have a nice little handy, pipe wrench in your pocket like that. Also, you see on my coat, I have a like a tile cutting knife. That is excellent when you're on top of roof, whether you have Q decking or vinyl roofing or opening up those can strips. You always have someone just gassing themselves with an axe, and I'm over there just cutting shingles like butter with a hook bill knife like that. You go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get one. They clip right on your gear, and they last about a year or two, depending on how long the blade is good for. But it's a really cool little tip. Shingles, stuff like that, it's just much easier to cut than to swing an axe at. So it's mostly for roof overhaul. So a lot of that stuff is by hand. All right, so we're basically to the very last portion of this class. Hopefully y'all are kind of learning some tips and tricks about truck work and stuff. We're going to hit on a little bit about legacy buildings and overhauling. Overhauling is definitely the lost art in the fire service by a wide margin. We've seen a resurgence of hose handling skills and a lot of other things in the fire service, but overhaul, it seems to almost have disappeared on a terrible epic proportion, to where our Fire 1 and 2 classes now are basically taught overhaul. It's like a show and tell. You go out to the truck, you might open up a compartment, that's a pike pole, that's an axe, and that's how you do overhaul. That's for pulling, sealing, and axes for chopping stuff, and that's overhaul. What's insane about that is overhaul will kill you if you do it wrong, and that's probably one of the most injurious times of the fire. And overhaul will make or break a fire incident more times than not on legacy buildings. So having that training gap in the fire service in itself needs to be addressed like 5 minutes ago. And that's kind of where we hit with this right here. And like I said, you can talk about modern light frame, Type 5 construction all day and modern construction, and that's fine until this is on fire. If you show up to a legacy building with a modern construction playbook, you're going to burn down your town, and then you're probably not going to be the fire chief anymore. So that's I've seen that happen actually numerous times across the country. And it always comes down to overhaul, essentially. Understanding the voids, the tools, the techniques. You got to understand overhaul is an aggressive part of a fire attack in a legacy building. It's not an after the fire's out type thing. It's during the fire. So we're going to talk a little bit about the buildings. I happen to live in a city where this is a normal site. We have a lot of dilapidated buildings that are just kind of cut in half, so I get to learn about them. It's pretty cool. This is what you have. So you got to have you see the voids in these things, right? You have your cock loft, you got your floor voids with the joist, you got your ceiling voids with the joists also, and then you have your walls that are framed up like that. So that's how these buildings are put together. There's voids all over these. These are Type 3 brick and joist buildings. So you gotta understand how these buildings are constructed, where the voids are at, and where the fire is going. You gotta have foreseeability with these. So keep in mind, walls that were never meant to be exterior walls, and all of a sudden they are, because the building at the end of the end row building has been demolished or burnt down. Well, now you have a wall that was never designed to be an exterior wall, now is an exterior wall. They're very easy to spot. You kind of see the old building silhouette. So just keep in mind, if you're an incident commander or you're an officer doing a size up, kind of keep that wall a little little higher, higher priority on your list there. You can see the old joist pockets have been parged over and stuff like that. So that's something to take note. Don't let that one catch you off guard there. Also, when balloon frame exterior walls become interior walls. So someone may have added a newer portion onto an older building or an older house. So now you have a balloon frame wall that's now an interior wall. That's going to catch you off guard too. That fire is going to race to the second or top floor a lot faster than you expected it to, because you thought maybe there was fire stopping there, and it just wasn't the case. So just something to keep in mind if you have an older frame house with a newer addition on it, that things happen. Wall ties. This is something that I had messed up for like a good 10 years of my career. I always thought, like probably a lot of people thought, because I took IFSA, that all these had tie rods that went from one end to the other, and some do. But I didn't realize until I owned an old house and looked up one day. I'm like, I don't know where my tie rod, because I had stars on my house, and I said, where are my tie rods? That's weird. And I looked up one day. I said, oh my God, I had that messed up. There's no tie rod there. These are just essentially strapped in from the brick to the joist, or to the what's up behind the brick there. So not all those stars you see have tie rods that go from one end to the other. And I got a picture of ones that do. The bigger ones, whether they're a plate, a diamond, or a larger star, those are going to be the ones with the rods that hold the two walls together. The smaller ones are just going to have straps like that. So a large portion of the fire service has that messed up, just like I did. And I'm trying to, it's crazy that this is not in the textbook. I don't know why that's not in there. Just because you see these stars, don't freak out either, right? That just means that wall's been reinforced. It's probably in great shape or in better shape than it originally was. So, like I said, that wall was, for my house was fine. That wall was solid. So, but just know what you're looking at. Just understand those small stars. That's not a rod that goes all the way through. That's just a little strap of metal that grabs a joist or something on the other side of that brick wall. That's all it is. So we have what's called brick corbelling. You got to understand the significance of cast iron also. When you have brick corbelling, you have these massive heavy timber or dimensional lumber, girders, or these joists like that, sitting on what's called a corbel shelf, which you might have a 12-inch beam only sitting on 10 inches of wood. Well, you just lost 2 inches of mass, right? So that's significant. You got to understand why that's important, because those can also roll sometimes off those corbel shelves, and they come out of those joist pockets. Also, you should know what a fireman cut is, or a fire cut. Those were designed back in the day when we weren't interior fire. We were an interior fireman, all right? That's why they call them a fireman cut, because it was designed for us to be on the outside. It was designed to keep the walls from being smashed out on the guys in the street, all right? It was designed to keep the walls and the floors from falling, so the floor fell and the wall stayed. That's what the fire cut did. Older buildings have those on the joists and the joist pockets. They're cut like that at an angle, so it doesn't pull down the walls if the floors collapse. Cast iron, we've all heard the myth about cold water shattering cast iron. Completely false. Definitely not the case. What happens with cast iron is it's not cast right, and it fails with heat like everything else. It fails, it's at a variable heat depending on how it's cast. It fails completely, and it shatters very bad. So it's just very bad and complete. It's just almost just disintegrates, and you don't know when that's going to happen. So that's the significance about cast iron. You see cast iron columns, just be cognizant of that. It's not going to shatter if you hit it with cold water. That's in some of the old books. That's an old fire myth. It's just not true. So cast iron fails because the way it was cast. The Pemberton Mill fire is something you can look up to kind of read on that. That's what that picture is from. So something you see around your town. Everyone should get out in the older part of their towns if they live in an old town, or if there's an older historic district in their city. Get out and start reading these old buildings. These buildings should be talking to you. All these buildings should be talking to you and telling you things about them that you should now be able to hear and understand the language that they're saying. And also look at these buildings as if they're on fire, but they're just not burning yet. You got to have that kind of context when you're looking at these buildings from a fireman's perspective. So this one right here, the canopy should jump out at you right away. That canopy is hugely dangerous to be under or around. Not only that, it's a 1-2 punch. If that canopy comes down, it's going to pull that parapet on top of you. So if the canopy doesn't get you, the parapet wall is going to get you. So that's a very dangerous situation to be in. The collapse zone is actually farther. Just because you're outside the building doesn't mean you're actually outside. You got to get outside farther, so you're not underneath that canopy like that. Don't stand on it. Don't be under it. Also, unfortunately, it's where the front door is, right? So that's another situation you have to kind of think about. So a lot of firemen have been messed up with canopy collapses. Understand what's holding them up and where the anchors are at and what the risks are involved with that kind of stuff. So cornices are another one. That's a void up there in that cornice work, whether it's metal, whether it's wood. It can come down and it has a shearing collapse, just like a big scissor. It comes right down like a guillotine. And unfortunately, the same way with the canopy, it's where the front door is, right? Where do we normally go through fires? We go through the front door. So that's a huge collapse hazard on the second floor, especially when the fire is showing from the top floor, lapping up on that cornice. You have to make sure you get up and get that fire as soon as possible. If there's any possibility that fire has extended into that cornice work, you need to have crews on the roof open it up, or just go ahead and sweep it from the outside with a hose stream. There's nothing wrong with exterior water, especially when it's checking extension on the exterior. It's not the same as having opposing streams. So there's nothing wrong if you show up and you got fire blowing out on a cornice like that, go ahead and sweep it before you go in. So the last thing you want is that cornice jumping out at you and then falling on your hand line or falling on the guys masking up. So like I said, know the voids. There's all sorts of voids in these buildings. You can see the first floor on this one actually has a double void where they dropped the ceiling. So now not only do you have the floor void, now you have a ceiling under a floor void. So you have a double void there. That's a lot of fire. There's a lot of cubic feet of air that can be filled with fire that you're not even sure about when you get on scene. And you're going to know that there's some indicators of these fires, of void space fire. When you get on scene, you're going to have a lot of smoke coming out of parts of the wall. You can have it pushing in between the brick, the joints, the mortar joints. You have smoke pushing out between mortar joints and brick. You're looking at a void space fire in the floor or the walls. So that's a good indicator that you got something moving up on you like that, and you need to get in and do some aggressive overhaul. That's where this overhaul stuff really comes into play. So look for the triangles. I always tell people, if you want to identify voids in a building, find the triangles. You can see the triangles. All these pictures are the void spaces, whether it's the cornice work, whether it's the porch on that 1.5 story to the on the upper right there, or you can see where they're actually framing over. They're gonna put cornice work over the top of an old store there, and you can see the cubed glass or the block glass. That's a drop ceiling. So now they're gonna make a void, essentially covering up another void on the inside. So they have an exterior void and an interior void. All that kind of stuff goes into play when you're doing these buildings. You got to understand where these are at. You got to have some foreseeability in these operations. You got to understand where your water has to be, and you got to understand where to open up to get the water to the fire. So another one is you have 3 different ones here. You got your windows that have the sash weights in there. And in these older buildings, legacy construction, these frame houses, around your windows and your door frames are all little void spaces. You want to open up these, get these sash weights out of there. They're going to have 2 types of cordage. They're going to have the cordage like in this photo. They're going to have a metal chain that are going to be holding these weights up. Get those out of there. A sharp axe will cut right through those. Just be careful not to grab the weights. A lot of times they're hot. They'll burn right through a glove. So you want to get those out of there. You want to clear that void. Also, laundry chutes, right? Those are something that kind of went away for about 1970s. So in older homes, though, this one was actually a laundry chute hidden behind a linen closet. So that would totally catch someone off guard right there. You have fire blowing up essentially an interior chimney instead of a linen closet in a bathroom. So not only do you have pipe chases to worry about, now you have laundry chutes to worry about. So you can see why bathrooms and kitchens are definitely the place you want to check immediately after you have a fire. You want to go to the room overhaul that room, and then you want to immediately go to any bathrooms or stuff above the fire to check those, because you have all these avenues of extension. A wet wall, like I hit on before, these are so important. You got to understand what these are and what they mean if you don't open them up. They're in every building with a bathroom or interior plumbing. That's how these are set up. Multifamilies will use the same wall for they'll do bathrooms back to back or kitchens back to back in like apartment buildings and stuff like that. So you have to get above these. You have to go above the fire floor and open these up and make sure you don't have fire shooting up one of these wet walls, because they will go all the way to the roof. This is essentially balloon frame construction. The pipe also conducts heat. So just because it's not fire up in there doesn't mean the heat from isn't conducting through one of those pipes. You'll have a very, very hot soil pipe on your roof starting to catch the roofing material on fire sometimes too. So a good indicator is open it up. If you have cobwebs anywhere in that pipe chase, you're good. Cobwebs are a good sign, obviously. They're very delicate, right? It's a cobweb, spider web. If those are around, there ain't no fire. it's good. So cool little old trick that makes sense is checking for that. But open these up anytime you have a fire in the basement, or you have a you got to get above the fire. In any case, you got to open up your wet walls in your kitchens and in your bathrooms. So behind the tub, behind the sink, pull the vanity off the wall, open it up, punch a little hole. You got to find the pipe. So make sure that that is a clean space. Stair and floor voids also are a big deal. A captain once said, you know, put a boot through the bottom of the stairs right before you walk up, and make sure there's no fire under you when you go up. So, in a floor void will have little fingers coming from the baseboards that go up the stairs. You'll see little fingers of smoke. Anytime you see little fingers of smoke, you have a void fire under you. It kind of presents itself in little tiny tongues of like pressurized smoke. It's very interesting. I have a video coming up. You're going to see me stop and tell the new guy, hey, there's fire below us, just so you know. We're doing a search on a second floor of a first floor fire. And I stop and show him those fingers of smoke on the very top step, because you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Just be cognizant of how stairwells, how they're constructed, and the voids that are underneath those. So here's that video I'm talking about. You're going to see me go up and kind of stop the new guy behind me and shine my light at the top step, and you're going to see those fingers of smoke. And what, you know, I'm telling him, hey, there's fire below us. Just check that out, just so you know. So we're going up. We had a report of people up in this building on the second floor, and you see those smoke fingers right there on the top. I'm shining my light at them. So, and what happened was we had someone light a fire underneath the stairs, and we had someone light a fire right inside the front door. So it was fine. The hand line was on the first floor. I knew we had water below us, so we were able to do a search in a low risk kind of situation. But that kind of stuff is something that you need to kind of stop and show. That's how new guys learn, right? You need to stop and show them, hey, this is what a fire in a void floor looks like. This is what a fire in a floor looks like. So when you see that, you know, maybe tread lightly. So we're almost done here. This is just touching on some tool techniques. People don't even realize what's in their hand half the time. The tools that they have on the trucks, they don't understand the leverages or the fulcrums or the mechanics behind them. And this is a big one right here that I see newer people struggle with, is getting in these old buildings and pulling the plaster and lath. And the way these hooks work, whether it's a pike pull or roof hook, you want to make sure that you're always working against the connection closest to the structural member. All right, if you work in the middle of anything, whether it's a board over a window or a piece of lath across a stud like that, it's like a rubber band. You're gonna be like pulling rubber bands. You're just gonna gash yourself, and you're gonna be wasting energy. If you pull closest to the stud, that's why it's a flush side on that hook, you're gonna be able to pull stuff with half the effort, and you get twice the result. So, and that's what you're gonna see in this video right here, is you see the guy to the right struggling with the same task, because they still don't understand the mechanics behind the tool. I'm barely working. I'm barely working, and you can see how much stuff coming off with this, and the person to the right is just struggling. It's all about understanding the technique. So this is stuff that a lot of old timers passed down to me, and these are people in their older years who just found ways to work at an ultra level of efficiency with these techniques. So it's just little tiny pulls closest to the joist at the connection, and you're going to pull ceiling way faster than the person next to you, or walls, whatever you're doing. Tin ceilings are another one that we run into a lot of times that no one ever talks about. The trick to these are finding existing openings, which are going to be in a few places. They're going to be underneath the stanchion of a ceiling fan. If you find the blades of a ceiling fan with a pike pull or whatever, you can go ahead and follow that to the center, and then go ahead and open up there. And also a pre-existing opening is going to be cup lights or pocket lights. You can find those with a tick pretty easily usually. If you don't have any of those, you can go ahead and just try to get your wedge of a roof hook or a pike pull underneath the molding on the edge there. Start working the molding. Tin ceilings suck. They're very laborious. It'll gash you every time. Tin ceiling, and we have the wire mesh too, is ones that you find a lot. These are also higher up, usually 10 or 12 foot ceilings. So don't grab the 6 foot pike pull off the truck on these. You're gonna need at least an 8 footer usually. Something to think about. Roof overhaul is another one. This is after the fact. Kind of fires out, but you have some smoldering stuff in the gutter, along the gutter line. You see a lot of newer people really struggling with these gutters to get them off. You see a lot of people trying to kick them down. Well, the gutters just bend, you know, and then now you just dumped a bunch of nasty water and stuff on the guys below you. So, or you have people trying to pull them and they essentially dump the nasty stuff on themselves. So an easy way to take these off is just to get the flashing inside gutter off, and then 6-foot pike pole down that gap and just pry out. You'll pop them right off every time. It saves you a lot of work. You're not bending over. You don't want to. I've seen some guys almost fall off a roof swinging over with an axe. You don't want to try to do anything like that. So you want to try to pry before you swing anything. Prying is always going to be your best bet on gutters. So that they're just fastening them. Each one of those little fasteners is just a screw that goes into the rim board there. But that's a cool little trick for gutters that no one really shows anyone about. And then that's basically it. You know, mastery is an accidental, it's by design. This is a picture of a recruit that I had the privilege of teaching in his academy class, and he was just shown, you know, how to do a primary search, and it was just jarred into his head. He didn't take any extra special classes. He just stuck to what he knew, and he wound up making probably one of the most documented saves, you know, of our fire department history. And it just goes to show you, you stick to the plan, you stick to your SOGs, and you stick to what your training tells you to do. And if you do that every time, you do a systematic search every time. In this case, he came up with a win. So kid saved a lot of kids that day. So that's that. I'll answer any questions you guys have about anything we talked about from here on out. Thank you guys for giving me your evening. And so now I'm just here to answer questions, and we can go from there, have a group discussion.
Yeah, hey, so there were 2 questions posted. First one was during the rain roof portion. Jordan was curious if you're aware if rain roofs need to be approved by zoning board or city office through permitting, or if people can just throw those up.
Yeah, as far as I know, you're supposed to pull a permit on any sort of stuff in my city. Now, does that happen? Maybe, you know. So, yeah, you might not know. It's not like we get a list of, all right, here's the new rain roofs going on, right? Like you just have to be out driving around and see them going up, or recognize them when you're on one. So,
sure. And then
I mean, the biggest indicator of a rain roof is you open up a roof and you got fire blowing out of it, but the guys under you are saying the fire's under control. And you're like, hey, pull the ceiling. And they're like, we pulled the ceiling. And you're like, well, clearly not. So then you're like, oh crap, you know, they did pull the ceiling, but we're on a separate roof. So that's a huge indicator right there.
And then we had another question that was curious if you had gas meter access outside of a building or typically all interior in St. Louis. What you guys have there?
Yeah, a mix of both. They actually started moving the gas meters to the outside. So it's a mix of both. They're in the process of moving them to the outside. So then that goes into another whole host of problems. Now you have car accidents and stuff, and that happening with the exterior ones. But yeah, we still have them. I would say the majority are probably still inside. On the front, they're always usually on the front wall, on the A side wall.
Yeah, that's super interesting. At least around in our city, majority of gas access is all exterior. I would say I've seen it interior, but more common than not would be exterior for us anyway.
Yeah, it's a big problem. I mean, we have a lot of everything in our city is a basement, and basement fires, they impinge on that gas meter, and we have gas keys where we can turn off. We have a box in the sidewalk usually. We might have to dig it up. Might take us a second, but we can turn off the gas to the house usually from the front yard.
Cool. Well, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to hop on, turn your mic on, ask away. We have however much time anybody wants to spend and talk about whatever. So,
yeah. And like I said, I don't know if most people know, but this is designed to be as like we're supposed to, you know, I try to get a vacant building so we can go and do all these things and learn these things in the actual building that we can overhaul the right way and show you. I spent an entire day with an awesome department in Ohio last year, and it's awesome to get them out and actually use the tools, the right way, or show them some stuff they didn't maybe know. and stuff that's not in the books, right? When's the last time anyone got to go out and just, pull ceiling or get better at opening walls and pulling trim and baseboards? You can't do that in a training tower, right? It's just possible. So. So yeah.
Chris, I want to say thank you too, just on behalf of the chapter. We really appreciate you giving us your time, and the presentation was awesome. Got a lot of useful information out of it. If anybody here from Sons of the Flag is still on too, same thing. Thank you for your time. You guys haven't seen the link in the messages, there's a link to donate if you feel so inclined. Obviously, the proceeds from the tickets are going directly to Sons of the Flag, but if you want to give a little extra, I know they would appreciate it, we'd appreciate it. So just head on over there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on, fellas. Like I said, thanks for everyone who joined in. So it's a privilege of mine to be here, and definitely honored.